Welcome back to the channel. We are working on the Ram today and I got a new tool to show you to help with this transmission service. So there it is. We're getting ready to upgrade the pan on this Ram. In order to do that, we need to get the fluid out. There's no drain plug from the factory, so I picked up this handy dandy little oil extractor from Amazon. I'll link it below. Not affiliated, but so far so good, it's working. And what we're doing is we're just pulling it out of the dipstick tube and running it right into here. So works pretty simple. You just flip the switch and there it goes. So let that run until it's out, and then hopefully it won't have a big mess. While that's running, in order to do this upgrade, you're going to need a few things. I recommend you change out the filter. I've got a Wix filter here. On these Rams with the 6 speeds, there's 2 filters. And this box exploded, but there's 2 filters in there. Here's one and here's the other one. Little ATV gasket maker. ATF gasket maker. And then we're putting on this new MIG height extended capacity pan. So let's let that drain out and then we'll drop the pan and go to the next step here. Just watching this drain all the transmission fluid out, which is pretty slick considering I don't have a pan drain plug. Gonna keep the mess to a minimum underneath when I drop the pan. All right, so now we're underneath the truck and we want to pull all of these bolts around the pan all the way around and then break it loose. I'd recommend putting a pan down here as well, just in case. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pull it and leave a couple that are barely down in the front. And then I will put a flat pry in there, like plastic trim removal, because you can see there's gasket material everywhere. And let that front drop down. And then hopefully there won't be any fluid in there, or not much. The pump ran it dry. So let's get started on that. All right, so we got all but 4 bolts out. You can see I've got just a little bit of each one. The idea is when I pound on, got one in each corner left. When I pound on this, it's not gonna just straight drop in case there's still some fluid in it. And you wanna use something blunt, or more importantly, not marring because it's aluminum. So I've got a plastic scraper here. This is actually for keel guard install, and then a hammer. So let's beat on this a little bit and see if we can get it popped loose and then dropped in a controlled fashion. We're gonna put the pan in the way here to try to catch anything that may spill. All right, so we got it cracked loose. What I ended up doing, actually this is probably better, is I just hit the flat spot there with my dead blow. So now it's slowly draining out the bottom. Once this stops, I'll lower it down some more. You can see it's not on the bolts yet, but I mean, don't be in a hurry. Right now I've only got 2 drops on the ground, knock on wood, that's all I'll have. Once you get your new pan in, then you'll have a drain plug and this will be a much easier surfacing job. So while that's draining, let's go over what we get. You get all the new hardware, which is nice. Instructions, pretty self-explanatory. And this nice looking pan here. So 1.5 more quart capacity. So concept's pretty simple. Make sure everything's secure, make sure it's clean. Put it all in, right? So that's what we're gonna do. All right, we got the pan down. A little bit of gunk on the drain plug. That's nice and alarming. That's all the extra RTV that tech did put on there when they had the fluid changed by the dealership at 60,000 miles. So, you know, way to go Dodge dealer. But we got a little bit of silver, but not bad. I mean, my trans temps don't ever get over 150, even when towing, maybe 160. So that's down. Let's take a look underneath. Of course, despite my best efforts, I still made a slight mess again. That's just how that goes. So your next piece is you want to pull the filter and the other filter, and that should be a Torx T25. Don't strip that or you're pulling your exhaust. And then I believe that one comes loose with a wrench. I'll double check and let you know. Let's get these off. Okay, so this filter should be out with about 7 foot-pounds of torque. I actually had to use my oil wrench to remove it. And that one is a T25. So let that drain out some more. So you pull this off. You pull the pan off, make sure you get that T25 out of there, be careful. And then there's a gasket up here, or collar. This slides into a collar. You want to replace that as well. You know, use a pick or a flathead screwdriver. Just don't damage the aluminum. And then drive it back on with the socket of the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and get this buttoned up, and we're going to look at the actual pan part. All right, so when you've reached this point, you're halfway done. That O-ring is out. Obviously the pans are off here. Let's go up to the bench. I'll show you how I pulled the O-ring. But essentially, I worked it from this angle here, and then I was able to slide it down a little bit because there's a ridge. And then I was able to push with the bigger screwdriver from this edge to pull it loose, and then it popped right down. So here's a new O-ring, and it goes up in like this with this flange facing down. So if you look at it, you'll see there's an edge all the way around. And if you're careful, when you apply the screwdriver to the inside edge, you'll be able to pull it down. Once you get it a little bit cockeyed in that hole, we're looking down, you'd be working from the bottom here. You put the screwdriver in and pull it down just a little bit. Now, not too far. You don't want to scrape the aluminum that sits right here where my thumb is. But you want to catch the edge and pull it down, and then you can actually squeeze this flange over, because this will pop down and separate. There'll be aluminum right against this flange here. You can go right between the side of the transmission and this pan and just pull and this O-ring and just push it over, and it'll pop right out, and then you're good to go. So put a little bit ATF on it, and then just drive it home. And I'm going to drive it in with a socket that's the same size as this outside flange. All right, so when you're done, should be nice and seated like that. So now you just take your filter and you put the one end in there, and then the other end will sit in here and it'll screw in right over here. And then you put your spin-on filter and you're good to go. All right, finally getting to the good stuff here. So you get new hardware with this pan. So you'll want to pre-assemble that. Now this gasket, they should come with, it's not cork, it's not felt, but it's what they recommend. Notice there's no RTV groove like there is on the factory pan. So this can only go up really one way. So my plan is to shuffle underneath there with the gasket. I'll just go hold it in place. And I'll put a few in each corner, make sure the gasket isn't getting pinched, and then finger tight all the bolts and then torque it down. Plus, it's what they say right here, line the bolt holes and start with the 15 cap. So let's get that going. All right, before I button this thing up, one more tip. Put all your bolts in first to make sure your gaskets line up. Notice you're still loose. But all the bolts are in, so now nothing's gonna get cross-threaded or over-tightened. I can just run around and snug it all the way up evenly and then torque it to spec. I don't have to worry about having all the threads being, just put this one in now. Don't have to worry about all the stress being on those threads. So that's your tip. Torque it down to spec, fill it up. All right, fully snugged up. And now you just want to run around and torque these down to 105 inch-pounds with your handy-dandy torque wrench that you hopefully have. And they want to do a cross pattern, so I'm just going to cross it over. Then make sure this drain plug is torqued to 30 inch-pounds, which says right here, and you're good to put fluid in. When you're all done below, you want to add fluid. Remember, this takes 1.5 quarts more. Now this is liters, so roughly 6.5 quart capacity stock. 1.5 quart is 7 quarts. Should be about 7.5 liters. I've already put 5 in. This would be 6, 6.5. So it should be somewhere in here. What we'll do is let that drain down a second. We'll throw the dipstick in, pull it out, check it, put it back in, start it, put it in just to make sure there's fluid. If there's fluid on the dipstick, we'll start the truck, and then we will check it again cold and just keep adding until we're at the level we need to be at. Now, if you read the dipstick, it says check it and idling in neutral and block. So when you're doing that, make sure your parking brake's fully down. Check your wheel. Let's just see where we're at here in neutral. Okay, saying we are right about where we need to be. We're just a touch, and I mean a touch over the cold line. So we're gonna, there we go. So we're just a little bit over the add cold. So being new filters and new pan and everything, I think we're gonna go for a test drive and see if we land on the hot. If we land on the hot, I'll suck a little bit out the top. But that's why we stopped where we did, because math said we should have carried all the way down to the 3. We start a little bit low. I probably should have. If it's over by probably 1/4 of a liter. Well, let's go drive and see how it looks. And that's it. After a drive, we couldn't get up over 140, so we'll let it cool back down to 70, and we'll check it in the morning, because I live in Texas, so it'll be 70 in the morning. Hopefully you found that useful. Don't forget to click like below if you did, and subscribe. And if you made it this far, thanks for watching the whole video. Have a good day.